So I'm not Christian, which makes it really interesting. But I had an encounter with Jesus. And I remember the first thing I said was, I'm sorry. And I said, I'm sorry for not believing. And he was showing me that the direction that humanity is going is it's tilting, that there's a good portion of us now, we're moving away from the good. He was showing me things about the church. I'm not saying that it's bad to go to church, but a lot of people at church are being misled.
Welcome back, everybody. I am here today with Matthew Seibert, who is a spiritual explorer and integration guide whose experiences with plant medicine like ayahuasca and mushrooms open profound encounters with divine entities, including a moment with Jesus, which I am so excited to get into today. So, Matthew, thank you for joining us.
Well, thank you for having me. I didn't expect that one, but I'm really excited to share my story, and I hope that it helps someone maybe illuminate their path and maybe go out and seek what's already there. So I guess I'll start with my first
Yeah,
experience.
go for it.
Um,
Yeah, whatever you want to share.
it was back in November 2024. Um, Things were happening, and I felt this deep sadness. And I was very fortunate that I had friends and I call them brothers, but they were planning an ayahuasca retreat, and I really felt like it's something I needed to attend to get some answers because I didn't know much about ayahuasca, but I knew like a lot of people got some healing and insights from it. So I said, let's go to Peru in the middle of the jungle. What could go wrong, right? So this was November of 2024, right after Thanksgiving. I flew out to Peru, and it's 4 nights, and we sat with ayahuasca, and it really helped me heal a lot of my childhood stuff that I did not even knew that it existed. It's wild the things that it pulled out. I always grew up thinking, oh, there's no, I knew I experienced some things, but I never thought like there was trauma that was affecting how I lived. And so it revealed to me a lot of things, but one of the big things that I remember is one of the nights I encountered these entities, and it was just really, it was odd because I couldn't see who they were, but we're communicating telepathically. And I remember there was like a group of them or something. I felt the presence. And when they came into when they came into the scene, something else came in, and I could tell it was so sacred. It was as if God walked into the room. If you could imagine, if you opened the door and you saw God walk in, that was the feeling I felt, although I couldn't see anything. And I remember when I felt that, I felt this overwhelming feeling of like being unworthy. Like I'm not even worthy to be in this space, and I didn't know what was going on. And I remember at that moment I was being scanned. So something clicked where I knew that they can see every memory, everything I experience, every thought. It was like a snap, and it freaked me out because it's like imagine somebody being able to open your mind and look at your whole life, right? And a lot of these emotions of shame and embarrassment came up because, there's some things that you've experienced you never shared. And nobody knows but you, right? And everything was exposed. And I remember right at that moment, all I got was like unconditional love, saying it's okay. And as soon as I started calming down, they started showing me the world and started to explain like there's something coming for humanity and something was going to happen. And they're showing me like we have to start waking people up. When I'm hearing this stuff, I'm trying to comprehend what are you talking about waking people up? So they're just kind of like showing me there's something coming, and I was just so confused. And they're showing me that we need to wake people up because something is happening, and one of the ways that we can wake people up is like through plant medicine. And so I was asking them like, why are you picking me, or why are you telling me this, and um, how am I supposed to wake people up? And they simply said, just share your story. So, I mean, from there, I really didn't know what to do. but I had this calling and I had this feeling of like maybe I should just share my ayahuasca journey. And what the heck, put it on YouTube. It's like the one thing that I was afraid to do because I was I had to share some things that felt pretty difficult to share, because I would say like I'm more of a private person, and releasing that video was pretty difficult. But when I released it, I felt like something lifted, and I soon knew that there's more things that I needed to understand. So I went back to Peru the second time, and when I went back, I worked through more childhood trauma that was like 30 years of suppression that I didn't even know that was within me. But what was interesting is two of the nights, one of the nights, the entities came back and they're channeling this experience where my understanding was I was experiencing the masculine energy. Now, mind you, like this masculine, feminine, I hear people talk about it. I didn't know what that meant. And so this is just the downloads that I'm getting. And when I was experiencing the masculine energy, what I felt is a sense of like control and power and like just unlimited potential within me. And it felt so good. And then the next night was the complete opposite. And I was expecting to feel the same thing. And it was a complete opposite where I was helpless and I couldn't do anything. I didn't have control. And all these things I was experiencing were very challenging, but they were showing me that I have to sit with it and just be. And they're explaining to me that's the feminine energy. So, I'm just confused. I know a lot of people understand what I'm talking about, but I didn't at the time. So I'm trying to put everything together, not understanding what's going on. And so that was a very powerful retreat for me. And those two retreats, I was able to release a lot of trauma. And I'll put it all together of certain things that happened and why I was told they had to happen. But when I got back to the States, I just obviously, going to Peru every month and stuff is not, it's pretty expensive. So I thought, how can I, continue to go inward? And so I decided to go, do mushroom ceremonies. And so to the point where I started doing mushrooms by myself. And what's interesting is when I started doing the mushrooms, I encountered the same entities. And this is kind of the weird thing because most people understand the plant spirits with ayahuasca and the plant spirits with mushrooms are two different entities. So when I was talking to a lot of people that have far more experience than me, they're saying that's not normal that you're encountering the same entities. And so I thought there's something there because every time I go through, they're teaching me certain things specific to my life. But one of the big things that they're trying to help me understand is what I was before I came into this life. And it's like because it's telepathic communication, it's not like the words just translate. So they kind of give you images and understanding, and you're trying to translate it in your mind into English. So it's not like it's like, oh, okay, I understand exactly what you're talking about. And so, but it was something that I know I felt like I couldn't accept for some reason. Like I didn't believe it. And I think a part of me was because it was like a certain level of power. And I just felt like, to be honest, I just felt like not worthy of that power. And so I just didn't accept. And they taught me a lot. And I went through, I learned a lot about generational trauma that I had to work through. But it was this past November where um, everything got really intense. And so ever since my first ayahuasca journey, everything has been building up. And these entities have been kind of training me and guiding me in a certain way. And then in November is where everything shifted. Um, so I'm not Christian, which makes it really interesting. But I had an encounter with Jesus. And so it all started with the entities again trying to show me what I was before this life. And again, me not accepting. And they kept on trying to show me, and I just kept on pushing back. And everything shifted when a message came in very clear and they said, "You are a son." And I said, "Son of what? Son of who?" And they said, "You're a son of God." And I remember when I don't know why, but I just kept on pushing back. And I said, "There's no way. And I just started fighting it. And right at that moment, I remember this light came through above. Think of like the strongest surge of energy that came through me. And I remember looking through the light, being able to see past the ceiling. And it was like a hole or something, and I can see like a whole other dimension. And I remember the light was so powerful that it felt like light was coming out of my body and it was about to crack my uh, physical being. I don't know. And I got kicked back to the bed where it pushed me all the way to the bed. And I remember one moment I looked over and I thought, what is my body doing? And my whole body was laying in a cross. Right at that moment, I remember Jesus came through on my left side. I mean, just like if you were to see him in person, just walk through.
I just want to take a moment to thank you so much for watching the show. To show my gratitude, I have decided to continue offering my one-on-one sessions for almost 75% off through the month of January. So if you've been wanting to book a session, now is the time. You can choose between a 25-minute or 45-minute energy healing session, or you can book a custom session and we can tailor the session to fit your needs. Click here for the link. Thank you so much for the support. Now back to the show.
I jumped out of bed and my back hit the wall. I backed up thinking, what is going on? And again, it's not something I could see. I could feel him. And I knew without a doubt that was him. And it took me a second to kind of figure out what's going on. And I remember the first thing I said was, I'm sorry. And I said, I'm sorry for not believing. And all I got was unconditional love. And, I was really confused, not understanding what is going on. And he was showing me humanity. And it was almost like I could see all of humanity in a small space. And he was teaching me that all of us, we all have a collective mind and it's somehow connected. And I don't know how, but we're all connected in a way that if all of our beliefs believe in one thing, we all collectively have the power to manifest or shift what we experience in this life. And what he was showing me is in the past, majority of humanity, we all came together and most of us thought in for the good, right? And good for people. And he was showing me that the direction that humanity is going is it's tilting, that there's a good portion of us now, we're moving away from the good. That's the best way I could describe it. And he was putting images in my head, like he was showing me like we're focused on the wrong things. We're holding the wrong things of importance. Like if you look at social media, it's almost like humanity is going down the drain as far as, we're not loving each other. We're cruel to each other. We're greedy. We're driven by money. We're driven by all the wrong things. And he was showing me that belief of thinking that's okay is outgrowing the other belief that we should be believing in. And because of that, the direction that we're heading in is tilting in a direction we do not want. That's the best way I could describe it. Like I said, it's not like it's clear messages, but from my understanding, the reason why he was showing me this, it seems to me like I'm not special. There's a lot of people that are going to be waking up, and it's to increase more people believing in the right things to shift everything into the right direction. And that's the best way I could describe it. And what was interesting is after that, he was showing me things about the church, that with the church, that he was saying that people at the church, I'm not saying that it's bad to go to church, but a lot of people at church are being misled, meaning they're going to church and they're worshiping, and which is all good, but the problem is he was showing me like that wasn't his intention. He didn't want people to go to church on Sundays. He wanted people to embody what his beliefs were, what his teachings were. Like there's people that go to church, but they're not compassionate. They still judge people. They're not loving. And he was saying that to connect to me, you have to go within. And a lot of people at church, they are focusing externally, and it's not the right way. I remember at one point I'm thinking, we have to go tell everyone. Like I need to go tell everybody, this is not the way. And he stopped me. And one of the things that I was told is like, we can't interfere in other people's journeys. Because this whole feeling of like, I wanted to just go wake everybody up. And he was showing me that like, that's not the way to go wake people up because they're on their journey and their purpose. And we are not to interfere with that if we understand what's going on. And one of the things that really stood out, I was told that it was almost like be like a lantern and be present for people and emanate light to where when people are ready, they will see the path because of how you illuminated the way. And that was hard for me because all I wanted to do is like, oh, I need to go wake people up and I need to like, help them. and but yeah, I mean, it's a simple story. It wasn't anything crazy. I guess to me, it wasn't anything crazy. I was still trying to digest it. But yeah, that was my journey, and I'm still trying to process everything. I've had some other experiences as well that I'm still trying to process. But there's one thing that I do know. Like I wouldn't label myself as a Christian, and I have nothing against Christians. Um, I just feel that that word has a lot of baggage, meaning I don't even know if Christians know what Christians mean because there's so many people that can't even agree upon themselves. And so for me, like I don't want to label myself, but what I can say is I've become more compassionate, more loving, and I've forgiven everyone in my life for anything. And one of the reasons that one of the reasons that I was told by the entities that I was kind of giving some of this knowledge or this connection was because I did the work of not only releasing a lot of my trauma, but I actually forgave all the people that hurt me and did things to me that I held a grudge for. And one of the things that stood out to me was they said that trauma is like an anchor in this reality. And especially if there's people that you haven't forgiven, if you hold a grudge and trauma together is an anchor in this reality where it makes it harder to connect with God. And because I did all the work, I flushed it, I forgave, it opened up my heart to be able to love people in a way that was unfamiliar to me. And it really opened something up. And that was kind of the explanation I got of what I experienced with all the plant medicine journeys. Because I did that, I was able to connect in a way that otherwise wasn't available to me. And what was interesting is they said in the second ayahuasca experience, when I experienced the masculine and the feminine, the reason why they were showing me that was because I was too heavy in the masculine. I tried to control everything in my life, and that I needed to bring in more of the feminine. And they're showing me that Jesus was the perfect balance of both. I mean, like, you got to understand, like, I don't know any of this stuff, masculine, feminine. I haven't read the Bible. And so you got to imagine, like, I'm listening to entities when I take mushrooms and I'm getting downloads. But what's crazy is when I tell this to people that do know what I'm talking about, they're like, yes. So I must be um, experiencing something that people can relate to. And but yeah, I mean, that's overall like my experience.
Thank you so much for being willing to share your experiences. So I'm curious, in your first two experiences, you mentioned that you worked through a lot of childhood trauma. And what is that like to work through trauma when you're in a plant medicine journey?
So what's interesting is in my first ayahuasca journey, I didn't know, but um, when I was young, I was raised by my grandmother. So she imprinted on me and she took care of me. And as a child, I didn't know how close I was to her. And she left. Sorry, she didn't leave. I left because my dad was in the military around 5 years old. And as a 5 year old, I didn't have the tools to process that heartbreak. And what happened was it was showing me because my 5 year old version came in, it was showing me when I left Korea to go back to the States and I had to leave my grandma, that 5-year-old version got stuck in a loop. And the ayahuasca experience, what it allowed me to do is break that loop and let him free. But because he was stored, I mean, I'm 45, for most of my life, I was never able to connect with people. And it was something I just knew, like I could never like feel something with people. I could function socially, I could interact, I could be your friend, I could care for you, but like I could never feel people in my heart. And so in that ayahuasca experience, what it did was it not only did I purge, but it had me cry and go through certain things to release it out of my nervous system. And then my second ayahuasca experience, um, most of my life, I wasn't really accepted. So like what I mean by that is like I grew up in Korea, like Korean culture. So, but I was a half breed. I was half white, half Korean. So when I was young, I was never accepted by the Korean kids. And so that played a toll on me. And then when I came to the United States, the kids in the States didn't accept me because I was a Korean kid. And that led to, since I was 8, just being bullied all the way up until I was like 13 years old, just constantly bullied. And, being an only child and not having that many friends because my dad was in the military, so we moved around a lot. My world existed in my head. Like I was alone for all those years. And so that's what it showed me. And it showed me because of all my experience, my heart has been calcified. And so what it showed me, what it had to do is decalcify it. And the way it did it, there's two things it had to do. Not only it had to decalcify my heart, I had to forgive. And what ayahuasca did is it showed me the face of every bully, anybody that hurt me during those years. And it had me feel the love emanate from my heart to love that person and forgive them. And it went through every single person. And then it had to release all of this stuff out of my nervous system. And after the ayahuasca experience, I started searching into like, therapy. I've never done therapy. And so I started looking into like, well, how does therapy work? Because there's something here, because it worked. Something worked. And come to find out, I'm going down this rabbit hole. And a big part of therapy that therapy misses is because a lot of therapy is speech therapy, which they're missing the big part of it, which is in the body. And so to answer your question, how ayahuasca healed me was actually working through my nervous system and releasing everything out of my body. And what I've learned is how to heal through the body is really allowing your body to finish the cycle that it never got to when you were young. And essentially, that's what the medicine did. And the reason why I believe in it, I never went to therapy. I didn't understand nervous system. I didn't understand any of this stuff. So how is it that I drink this plant brew or take mushrooms and it does, and it knows exactly what to do to heal, right? And it's just like something like you can't ignore. And now that I understand how it mechanically healed me, I learned that it's totally duplicatable. And so like it's like now my calling, I'm going through certifications and I'm doing a lot of things because now I want to help people heal as much as possible without plant medicine. Of course, if they want to do plant medicine, I could guide them and help them on that path. But I believe there's a lot of work you could do without any plant medicine. You just got to start looking within. But we're so distracted looking outwards with, social media, movies, and all this stuff. And we just really lost our way. And it's, and I think this thing that's coming, this thing that's coming is that awakening to help us understand and see how we lost our way. And I really think, how we lost our way is by design. From what I've seen, from the things the entities I've shared with me is there are other entities or people on this planet that understand what I know, but they use it for bad, use it to take advantage of people. And it seems to me that enough is enough. Like it can't continue. And that's why something's happening.
That must have been a very intense experience. Going back to what you said when the plant medicine brought up every single bully and you went through and forgave each one and released it from your system. If somebody wants to go through that process without the plant medicine, is that what you're being certified in, to help people through that process?
Yeah, because there is a method to the madness in a sense. So I really studied with the plant medicine, like, what was it mechanistically that allowed me to heal? Because I truly believe that we can heal our own bodies. We just have to direct it and understand what to do. I don't know how to do that. And this is why I'm going through the process of learning. But the more and more I research, there's so much evidence that shows, yes, 100% it's doable, but it's not mainstream. All the stuff that's mainstream is stuff that's, I'm not saying it doesn't work. I'm sure it works, but I think we kind of missed the mark because it really starts with the body. I mean, if you even look at neuroscience, there's things that your body does before your mind even identifies with it, or before you even have a thought or emotion or a feeling, your body has already tagged it on what it is. And so, meaning a lot of the stories we tell ourselves are just stories that we apply to something that most of the time is not even attached to what we think it is. And so it goes to show like there's something there. And as I do more research and I learn about, helping people with their nervous system and stuff like that, I can't help but to see the correlation of how I got healed through plant medicine. And so, yeah, I 100% believe in plant medicine, but I also believe that it can be done. It can be done without plant medicine too. Now, look, also I have to say this: there's some things with plant medicine that there's not a single therapy, any meeting, there's nothing you could do that you can experience. So I'm not taking anything away. I'm 100% so grateful for plant medicine, in so many different ways. And so yeah, if you feel the calling to experience it, definitely experience it. But make sure you're with the right people for sure.
Yeah, definitely. In one of your experiences, you mentioned that they were showing you who you were before you came into this life. What did you see?
So I remember one moment that a lot of times when you have these experiences, you don't you can't think in a way where you know what to say and the questions to ask because you're so embedded in the experience that you're not thinking all the questions you would ask normally. But there's one time I was conscious and I said, "Who are you that's helping me? Who are you?" And I saw a picture of myself. But it was an image of me, and I could tell just looking at him, he was like, he had no baggage, no human baggage, no trauma. He was like perfect in a way of like just being without any baggage. And I remember looking at him thinking, I could never be like that. I wish I was like that. And it killed me. Like I had an ego death like 5 times. And it was showing me that I'm already him. And what I've learned is we, this idea that a lot of people, they say, I need to become this person, right? Have you ever heard of that? I need to become who I need to become. I need to become this
Yeah.
person. And what I realize is you actually don't have to become someone. You actually have to return to who you are. Because if you're going to become someone, it's only through releasing all these things that you've adopted all of your life that is not you. And it's really becoming who you think you want to become is actually is a process of returning to who you truly are. And that's one of the things the entity showed me is who I truly am. And what they're showing me is like my true essence of who I am is a good example of that is who I was when I was 5 years old, full of life, creativity, full of love, full of energy. And then we grow up and we adopt all these concepts and these stories and these narratives. And they're like a heavy weight, like a cloud that's attached to us, like leeches sucking on our lives. And we wake up as an adult, we think we're who we are, but we're not, and it's because of all the stuff that we're exposed to, and there's a lack of education and understanding of what's going on. And so what they showed me as far as who I am, there's a level to it. I got to see my higher self, but beyond that, what they showed me is we are all this light or this energy or spectrum is the best way I could describe it. That there's not a word on this planet that can explain what we are because by trying to explain it is trying to explain it from this construct which we created. So there is really no word that can explain what we are but just by trying to coming up with a word that is within this construct, which we don't really exist in this construct is the best way I can explain it. We're not a who, we're a what.
You mentioned that you saw that Jesus was the perfect mix of masculine and feminine, and so interesting that you were shown all of these things when you had never studied the Bible or weren't familiar with the language of masculine and feminine. But I'm curious, what did that mean? How did he embody both of those? Did you see anything more about that?
That's all I was told. And because when Jesus came through, what he was showing me is how he was there throughout my life. So we kind of did a life review and he was showing me, remember that moment? I was right there. Remember that moment? I was right there. And he was kind of showing me. And in that first ayahuasca ceremony, that's when I felt like someone walked into the room, he was showing me that was him. Then the second ayahuasca, when I went through the masculine and feminine, he was showing me to be balanced, right? And there's times where I remember even in the jungle, I would see the maestro, which is the shaman. He was like focusing before the ceremony. And I remember one time he had this card in his hand. And so I kind of scooted up. I'm like, what card is he looking at? And it was a picture of Jesus. And he was just showing me that, like, I was there giving you hints along the way. So I have no explanation. And I don't even know what I said is true or not. I'm just saying this is what I was told. But when I talk to people that know this stuff more than I do, they're like, yes, that's true. Like, I don't know how do we know it's true? I don't know. But people seem to relate to it in a way that I don't understand. I think, because I don't know much about this whole masculine and feminine stuff, but you follow a lot of these influencers and people that do talk about it. From what I gather, the history and stuff, it seems like it was really masculine focused. And there's like a transition to come back into balance. I don't know exactly what that means, but I'm like, yes, that makes sense because I experienced it.
Yeah.
We're definitely going through a change. And I think the next 2 years, things are going to change. And I believe our reality is going to be shattered of what we think. And I think it's time because I don't believe we came into this world to work all day, to be taxed on the money that we make, and then taxed on the things we buy, and taxed on all this stuff just to find out all these politicians took all of our money and they spent it and they wasted it. There's something massively wrong.
Yeah, especially when they're taking our taxes and using it to fund wars and even worse things.
I mean, yeah, we could even go on for days. So if you label yourself as a Democrat or Republican, you got duped. They're both crooked. Are you kidding me?
Mm-hmm.
And that's just my spiel.
No, I agree with you.
Yeah. And I just think I think collectively we're sick and tired of it. And I think that is going to change a lot of things. And I pray it does. And I will help any way that I can.
What do you think that we can do to help people? Because I know that you were told we need to wake people up, but we need to do it without interfering because people need to make their own choices.
Well, I think my desire was like, I want to get everybody in a mushroom ceremony and I want to take everybody to Peru and, do plant medicine. I think something's going to happen where as more and more people come out on social media, talk about their awakening, talk about their experience, more and more people are going to start looking inward and they're going to realize there's something there. And I truly believe the path to awakening without plant medicine, the first step is to start releasing all your trauma. Because when you could clear out all your trauma, you can connect to God in a easier way. That's the best way I could describe it. I don't have the answers, but that's the best way. It's a deeper connection. And it's really the trauma. And I think trauma is really boiling over for a lot of people. And there's a lot of people, they can feel it. They feel heavy. They don't know what's going on. And when they feel that way, hopefully they come across your videos, my videos, someone and say, I need to do something. That's really the first step. And the minute they go in that direction, I think they're going to be guided, hopefully, to start looking inward. And that's really the answer is going inward, right? Returning to who you are And I believe through that process, what naturally is going to happen is you're going to have love for people in a way that you never imagined. And a lot of people they say, how could that be? Right? They're like, you're telling me that you would forgive a criminal that killed somebody you love. And I say, yeah. And here's why. You're looking at it from a human standpoint. When I live life, I look at it from outside of humanity standpoint. Meaning, think of it if life was a game, right? You would be mad at somebody because you think you're still the character. I just understand I'm no longer the character. I'm the guy with the VR mask thinking I was the character, but now I've been awoke. And if you see everybody, even criminals and people that done things to you that you feel like you can never forgive, when you realize they're just characters and they don't realize they're characters, how could you be mad at them? They don't even understand who they are. And to look at people from above and say, wow, all these people, they're all like suffering and they don't even understand they're just a video character, like in a game, right? From my position, it just feels nothing but responsibility to now go out and guide people and help people while they're playing the character and not to wake them up, but hopefully guide them in the way they can start waking up and realize, holy crap, I'm not the character. I came into this video game for whatever reason, right? To learn whatever I needed to learn. And yeah, that's my viewpoint.
Thank you so much for sharing. I would love to ask you how these experiences changed you as a person. What were you like before you had these experiences, and how did they change you?
Well, if you look at my Instagram, most of my pictures was a guy in a suit. Um, and that guy, his self-worth, like my self-worth was tied to money and material things. I didn't have love for people. Not that I didn't want to, I just couldn't connect. But like my self-worth being tied to money, I realized is because I was around other people that had trauma where their self-worth was tied to money and all this stuff. And I'm not saying money's not important, but it shouldn't be the driver. It's just a tool, right? And how all of this changed me was it repositioned my priority of what's important. And I went from like worried about being judged and worried about just how people perceive me to now I don't care because you're still in the video game and I'm here to help you. And so like for me, it just gave me a level of compassion that I never thought it was possible for me. And love for people, understanding, acceptance. Um, I'm not perfect, but I try not to be judgmental. I still get mad if someone cuts me off, but it only lasts a few seconds versus like, the whole day. So, but it's just more of the awareness of understanding that, these emotions will come and go. It's not who you are. And that's really changed me in that perspective to now my calling is to really help people and help people realize that they're just the character. And I don't know how I'm going to do that. But I do know it's going to start with helping people release childhood trauma. That is the direction that I'm starting in. Might not be the position where I end, but I'm going into a place that I unfamiliar with, but that's a direction that I'm going.
And do you want to share with people, like if people want to reach out to you after this, where they can find you or anything that you have going on that you want people to know about?
Yeah, you can find my YouTube channel, Inward Wealth. And on there actually has my documentary for my first ayahuasca. And I have a few videos that I'm going to start releasing, but I'm just in the beginning process of trying to figure out how to build a platform and figure out how I can serve and help people. And so I think with that, hopefully you start seeing more of me around social media and stuff like that. But yeah, for now, you could go reach me on YouTube. I also have a Linktree link on there. But yeah, I'd be glad to talk to anyone for whatever you guys want to talk about. If you guys had some any experience or if you had this heaviness in your heart and you just want to work through it, I'm not charging or anything. So, hey, my time's yours. Let's go. So,
Wonderful. I'll have those links in the description. And I just have a couple more questions. The first one is, you mentioned that you were shown that something is coming for humanity and we're on the verge of this. I don't know what word you would use. A lot of people say a shift in consciousness. Where do you see us collectively heading? Like, where is all of this leading towards?
The best way I could describe is when I say awakening is like understanding what's really going on. So my best analogy is saying you've been a video game character all your life and you thought you're a character, and then you're going to realize you're not the character. And when you realize you're not the character and that we're all connected here collectively, I think naturally everyone will have love for each other. We'll be more of a humanity that's united than separated. I think we just need to get rid of the characters that are driving this in the wrong direction, right? Um, and I just think, yeah, it's just more of we're kind of waking up to the reality of like all the things that I've learned in the history and a lot of the things that I thought were true, we're going to find were not true. And they're just kind of stories that we were told to control us. And I think we're going to break free. That's my best explanation.
And my final question that I ask all of my guests is if you could give one message to everyone on the planet, what would it be?
I would say the number one thing by far is the first step is find a way to forgive everybody that you have not forgiven. Start there. Just it's something that you can do right now and just forgive everyone. And then from there, start looking inward and find yourself.